Wish this were all a little brighter. I wish this all were a little brighter. This is Super Pop 2. Why me? Especially why me? Huge question. You have to watch my previous video, Super Pop. Posted the day or two before this one. That's fair warning. Why me? It's as simple as this. Anything I do, they don't have to do. Because they're doing everything. I can't save someone's life in an emergency room. I can't be there at triage and perform my magical acts of science upon you to heal you. I don't know the parts of your body. If you're having a spiritual crisis, I might be able to help you with your body. Touch is a healing. Touch is a kind of healing. To those in the know, or to those in the gnosis, touch is a healing all the way down. But to those of us seeking the know, touch is most often lesser. Though I have experienced a form of self-touch, right? And not in the when I think about you, I touch myself type of way, but not completely unrelated. When I think about you, who? Now, when we think of the video, I touch myself, the song, right? But there are, how many ways to leave your lover? More than what Paul Simon said, right? And how many ways to touch yourself? I feel better already. Except for right there. Why me? Because I'm willing to do this. And that's it. They don't have to do what we do. What do I mean by that? I mean, there are those among us who know, who gnosis know. the disciples, the apostles, the magi, the sorcerers, the witches, the wizards, the shapeshifters. Not just or only of the David Icke kind, but of the Saint Raphael, Book of Enoch kind, the healer. And they are, percentage-wise, there's not a heck of a lot of them. But because there's so many people in the world now, percentage-wise, there's a lot. Yet, despite their superpowers, like, Superman was always there to save Lois Lane. Right? Clark Kent, Superman was always there to save Lois Lane. But he didn't save Lex Luger. Lex Luger, Lois Lane? He couldn't necessarily save everybody, but he did what he could, which was more than the average bear. But he may not have saved your folks or your grandfolks. Because of our own power and because of our free will, there's only so much they can do. And if they, what they? The they empowered by that. And only so much is a lot, considering the ferocity of the world. But the ferocity of the God of God's love is greater. It's greater primarily because it persists. Secondarily, it's greater because it influences. What does that mean? It means once you exceed, once you step beyond, not the threshold of perception. That's what we're reaching for, the thresholds of perception, the thresholds of power. But we are not we're not there's no justice in us receiving that power if that's what we seek. Morality must come first. Not false reality, not the image of reality, not the presentation of reality, and that's why this relates to my previous video. Because I understand the presentation of morality, because you're always trying to impress your boss or your teacher or your parents or your family or your friends or your spouse or your lovers and romantic interests or your customers or your clients or whatever. We're always trying to present this not entirely false part of ourselves, but false part of ourselves. The part of ourselves that doesn't account for the things we're ashamed of, whether we should be or shouldn't be. There are things about us, for instance, there are things about us that perhaps we shouldn't do yet. There are things about us that we shouldn't do, that we shouldn't be ashamed of. And when I say do, I include thinking. As soon as we think that we shouldn't think something, we think the most heinous things. And if we're curious, as scientists, as God-fearing and God-loving, as rationalists, as alchemists, as aspirants, as initiates, as dumb shits, whatever it is we be. They say curiosity killed the cat. Say you are innocent, though. Innocent. What's it mean to be innocent? Right? How foul can your experience be yet? You can't yet live without some preservation of innocence within you. It's impossible. Some of the most vile, heinous, hardcore folk people who seem to defy innocence, some, not all, of them are the greatest protectors of innocence. Why? Because they live in a place, big or small. Viciousness is not a respecter of scale. Viciousness is not a respecter of caste. Viciousness, as it exists at every level. And even laterally, at every level. Trying to get to the point. Maybe I shouldn't have, Wherever they are, they're always out there helping. They can't do everything. They have not won. So, as far as yeah, the Omega Point, yeah, some are there. Heaven, yeah, some are there. But it's not over. Right? It's not over yet. It's not over yet. You don't remember, I won't let you forget. The hatred I bestow upon your neck with the fatal blow from my teeth and my tongue. You thought it's over, but it just begun. Now you are mine. I'll keep killing you till the end of time. Dun, 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 dun. I'm a little bit of a Mike Patton fanboy. Not completely, but. Yeah, Faith No More. What's Faith No More mean? In certain areas, Faith No More means that you no longer have faith in something, you know it. Knowing can't be fake. Here. And that's why we can't handle the truth of telepathy. And that's why those among us, call them what you want. Whatever the them is that you think about mostly, that's who they are. And they're not, are they this or this or this or this? They're all of it. Right? Well, are they aliens? Are they angels? Are they this? Are they that? Are they this? No. Put it all together. Time travelers. People sometimes talk about like panspermia, right? The seeding of the earth. Like the simplest paradox to think about is like, well, the simple way to think about it is the book that writes itself, right? If time travel is possible, you bring a book back from the future into the past and have it translated across time. Until you get to the future where it gets brought back into the past. So like no one ever wrote it. If time travel is possible, such a book is possible. And by book, we might also mean person, something, anything, doesn't matter what. Imagine existing at the end of time, when time travel is discovered. Whether technologically or meditatively. When breaching the veil, not just through peering, but through walking, becomes a reality. And finding like, oh, it's my job. It's my job to go back in time and create my ancestors. That would be a hard thing to deal with. But let's dial that back to telepathy. Just the idea of telepathy. A lot of people believe in it. Think about it. Well, I know it's true. I can't prove it to you because I'm not a telepath. Otherwise I could. If you're strong enough, a telepath will come into your life and prove it to you, I promise. As it so happens, that's the truth. But they only take that advance. They only do that if you have the potential to be a telepath. The goal is that we're all telepaths. The World Wide Web is, because some people, especially in the I'm not getting this quite right, but especially in postmodernism, would consider the world essentially like a life support system for decrepit ideas and decrepit people. That's one way of looking at it. But that's actually true. And it's not a bad thing, it's an act of compassion. It's an act of compassion because it represents what we are to do beyond the metal and the sticks that we call hi-fi, Wi-Fi, 3G, 4G, 5G. It won't last. But it's not meant to crumble in some sort of Mad Max way. What it's meant to do is tie us together, reigniting the oral tradition in time across space so that it can be reignited in space across time. And when all this hodgepodge architecture crumbles, the digits are one thing, but the true infrastructure is a hodgepodge. As it so happens, there's a greater mathematics behind the digitization. What we think computers are doing, what we think those ones and zeros are doing, are just the froth and bubbles on the surface of a larger thing going on across time. We are hooked up to a life support system. We're worshiping the life support system, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. We just need worship it in the right way. It's happening to let us know that we are telepathic. The telepaths themselves have more power with these devices. And when I say again, please, you have to watch my previous video. But what I call a telepath, I mean much more than that. Clairvoyant, archangel, in that vicinity. Alien, advanced technology. Fox News today released some videos from the Navy of what they called pyramids. Look like tetrahedra to me. Looks like Jim Carrey was right. But Heraclitus for that matter. But whatever the real physics is the real psychology, is the real us. Lost my train of thought. Whatever we do, they don't have to do. And that's why, in a sense, yeah, it's a recruitment. Because what they know how to do is so much deeper than what I know how to do. Yet, at certain times in my life, they have come to me with just a sweet word or a sweet brush, and a time or two a caress. They came because that's what I needed then. But yet, they're also operating at every level. So they're also doing work that other people can't do at every technical, electronic, biological, medical level. There are things other people can do, right or wrong. They always do the right thing. And there's a lot of them, but percentage-wise, it's still not big enough. And they can't just win or defeat or kill, because that's not the goal. The goal is everyone. No one left behind. No one left behind. That's the goal. Everyone, no matter what you've done, matters. Everyone. No matter what you've done. I can't forgive myself for what I've done. I'm working on it. But I understand the philosophy, and sometimes I gel with it and feel it and I get it. But there's no like, God's gonna forgive me, I'm gonna forgiveness is super important, right? We have to work for other people. We have to work for other people, no matter who they are, at the level we can operate. Right? So if you can just give someone a pat on the back and say, good job, that's where I'm at. I don't know how to perform surgery and cut out tumors. Right? I don't even know how to do the things I know for myself. Right? I know I shouldn't smoke, I smoke. I know I should eat different foods. And I still don't. I'm working on it. I'm trending over time. But what I know I can do is give you encouragement and just say, if you're going through a hard time, I've been there. I'm still here. It sucks. And just, I'm hoping that gives you some relief. Just saying, like, if you're on the path, if you're seeking, if maybe even if you're doing better than the average bear, as they say, you might be doing a great job. You might be doing 1,000 times better than me and suffering deeply, hurting physically, emotionally, psychologically. But you might actually be doing a great job. Because that demonic thought form of butchery still exists in the world. We will not solve everything right off. But there is an idea to be killed now, in this time. And it is the idea, thought form, of butchery, primarily of vertebrates. Well, we're going to focus on that. We're not going to kill vertebrates anymore. We're going to kill the thought form of butchery of vertebrates. We are going to affect the universe. We're sending all these things into outer space. We protect our this and our that and our this and our that. And we're all proud about our this and our that. Yeah. Vertebrates are the most beautiful structure in the universe that we know of. People might say things about the ocean. Now, of course, there are vertebrates in the ocean. As time goes on, we'll have to do a better job, but we're simply not allowed to kill vertebrates. Whether they are predator or prey, they are scared shitless. Especially the prey. The predators too, and when they're not scared shitless, don't mistake yourself. in the false narratives of the Serengeti effect, because the Serengeti effect goes all the way down to the gut microbiota, from the cosmos to us, to the gut microbiota, to the plank. That's how deep the Serengeti effect is. Releasing wolves in the wild isn't going to fix things. What about this? What about that? One of the largest toothed creatures and the largest bat is the flying fox bat, a vegetarian, with the biggest canines. They're huge, huge canines. Eating fruit. Vegetarians. So, take all that shit about omnivores and carnivores and all that shit and throw it out the fucking window. Viciousness, murderousness, and butchery is the evolution of the wrong choices of free will. It's the accumulated error of what we call random, which is really, obviously there's no real random. Real random is, well, it would look more like the static on a TV. And more like the static of a TV than a Jackson Pollock painting, because a Jackson Pollock painting isn't really random because it kind of all looks the same, right? In some sense, a random painting would be like hairy butt, flower, nebula, a couple splatters, gunshot, tear it all down, hug it, crinkle it up, step on it, put it in the ocean. That seems more random than a Jackson Pollock painting. I don't know. It's not my idea, but yeah, limited free will. And all the bad shit is the accumulated error of the wrong choices of the limited free will that we have. And specifically when we cause harm to others, though there is a threshold. In some sense, like Jainism, the folk who wear masks so that they don't accidentally swallow a bug, they might be taking it a little too far, except for aesthetically, like they're super important as a symbol. But if we all did that, it's a little bit over, you know. But maybe not. My contention is that as we become more peaceful, more vicious forms will die off. Like there's a mass extinction coming. It's just a matter of how that mass extinction comes about. If there's a mass choice of peace, and if there's a mass choice of destroying butchery, then the extinction that will come will be primarily of butcherous species. And we should want that, right? Even if it's a fantasy, right? We like all kind. I don't care how scientific or how rational you are. You love something that is totally irrational as shit. You love some food that's completely irrational to eat, but it's so delicious you love it. You love some romance, some flesh, with some makeup or some haircut or with some body build, with some waxing, with some perfume, with some smell, with some scent, with some touch, with some dance. All artifice, all artificial, right? Not all, but there's some look that you give to it. 999 out of 1,000 dudes ain't gonna be loving on no body odor Sasquatch bitch. It's our job to kill butchery at every level. But if we go too far, like, for instance, the idea of Jainism is pragmatically a little too far. Because we need to do it at the level we're at. And the level we're at is we eat the things in the world that are most like us. That is so stupid. That's the first thing, and I won't go on to it because maybe it makes a lot more sense to be peaceful about the whole thing. Respiration, primarily, is nonviolent, except for the way that even I myself have perverted it. But the carbon dioxide oxygen transfer, as it exists naturally, is a peaceful transfer. We need to model food systems after that. One of the reasons why, well, they talk about carbon dioxide, global warming. There's all kinds of controversy over that. Never mind the okay. Is man-made climate change real? Yes. So people say it's real or it's not real. That's the false argument. The real argument is yes, it's real. And then the argument is it controlled and deliberate? And what I mean by that is it known, understood, controlled, deliberate, and being used as a pragmatic, practical co-psyop terraform event? Is it that, or is it just the accumulation of blah, blah, blah? All that aside, the model of respiration between plants and animals is peaceful. And we need to model our food structures off that. There are ways to eat food that doesn't hurt. Never mind not killing animals. But there are ways to not hurt and even benefit the plant by the way that we eat it. And then it benefits us. And then we poop on the plant. That's the way it's supposed to be.